about, let's see. San is asking who will record this. If you do record it and let him know, please let me know, because I would like a copy also. So earlier this week, like I was saying, I recorded a live webinar, and what we did was just word of mouth and direct invite. So I invited my list, Brad invited his list. We talked about it in our mastermind groups. I talked about it in this chat room a couple of times. I apologize for whoever show it was that my webinar was at the same time as. I'm trying not to have that happen again next week. But essentially, we got like, I wanted to get over 100 registrants. We did, and we got 86. About 28 people showed up at the peak. 16 people were still there at the end of the recording. It was an hour and a half of content that we delivered to a live audience. We answered some live Q&A. And essentially, I did that with 15 minutes of preparation beforehand. I just put together a little mind map, and that's what we had on the screen while I did the webinar. So I recorded that through GoToWebinar, and you have an option when you record with them. You can use their own format, or you can choose to record it as a WMV on your own computer. I recommend choosing the latter. I had trouble getting the WMV to encode in Camtasia, which I normally do to turn it into an MP4. So what I did was I got a piece of software called Handbrake, which is free for Mac and PC for encoding stuff, and I encoded it into an M4V, which all you had to do in Windows is change the file extension to MP4, and then I was able to import it into Camtasia, export it as an MP4 after I tweaked the audio, and I got an MP4 and an MP3 out of it. So basically what I did was, with 15 minutes of preparation, some passive word of mouth promotion, I got over a dozen people throughout the entire call to attend a live webinar, ask questions, get interactive real-time content. I got a video out of it. I got an audio file out of it. Also, based on a recommendation from someone in one of my masterminds, I found someone on Fiverr that charges $5 per 15 minutes of transcription. So for $30, I'm getting the full hour and a half transcribed, and I'll have that by next week. So by next week, I have video plus audio plus a transcription plus the mind map, and that's a premium product, and it took me less than 2 hours to create the entire thing, and I will have paid essentially, you know, $30, and then if I put it on the Warrior Forum, that's like, what was that, 40 now? $40 for that, and then the intention would be to put it for sale as an affiliate product also, and then reach out to the same network of attendees who attended for free, offer them the recording at the discounted price that's available through the Warrior Forum, and then when it goes for sale full price, reapproach them again as potential affiliates, and then approach affiliate partners based on how well the recording sold the first time. Now, the trick is to not slow down. So next week, I will be recording another webinar that's free to attend, but I will charge for the recordings. So if you get on my list at colintheriot.com, I will post a blog post, and my blog posts email out to my list automatically, also post to my Facebook. So if you follow me in either of those places, you will be informed when my webinar is next week, and if you attend live, it's free. Otherwise, it will be a reasonable price. But for video plus audio plus the mind map plus the report, based on conversations that I had with other people in the market that I'm trying to reach into, that's potentially, you know, $47 product right out of the gate. Whereas if I had done it backwards, Actually, let me jump on my mind map now, because I wrote a mind map about this whole topic, and I've sort of just been rambling instead of referring to the notes that I wrote. So let me check that out and see where I'm at, and introduce that into the topic. So yeah, so generally what we're talking about right now is creating high value products. And the way you can boost the perceived value inside a product is two different ways. So you have the product itself, which is the first way. And the way you can make the product itself seem more valuable is through more sophistication. So a video is more sophisticated than an ebook, and therefore a video is more valuable. You can have more stuff. More content is more valuable than less content most of the time. You can sort of counter that with messaging, but generally speaking, the more content you have, the more that you can charge. The more perceived effort it took to create that content, the more value it has. So if it is a recording of you speaking in front of a live audience, that is more valuable than an on-camera or even a screen capture video that you recorded yourself in your own house, obviously. Even though it could be the same length, it could be the exact same information. The one of you speaking live in front of an audience would have more perceived value because it takes more perceived effort and also paints you as a better authority figure. So the final way in which the product itself can be made more valuable in and of itself is through context. And that is if you can position your product intelligently in the context of your entire marketplace, you know all the competing products and you know their flaws, you can overcome their flaws and therefore position yourself as being immensely more valuable. Because if you were listening the last hour and I told the story about the mattress, that salesperson made negative predictions about what I would find when I went into the marketplace. You can do that for your own info products so that no matter where the prospect goes to look to solve their problem, all indicators point back to you, you win. And that's one of the ways you can create an immensely valuable product is by positioning it to be superior based on the specific flaws of the competition. The second way you can make your product valuable is focusing on the persona, you, or sort of the marketing personality based on you that you play. I try and explain that to people that way because even though a lot of us in this particular niche are striving to be public figures, the figure we portray is not truly us in the way that, you know, there are things about my personal private life that are not part of the public life that I live, even though I'm on here, you know, an hour a week at a minimum for my show, and frequently a lot more. There are just things that are not part of my business, even though I recommend that you try and share personal things about your life. So the way I try and explain it to people is your persona is the sort of the mascot for your business. And it doesn't have to be you. You can make one up. You know, Rich Jerk was one example. I choose to be myself. But it's not me. It's a character based on me that I happen to play. Now, the way you can make that add value to your product is if your persona is perceived as an expert. The way you do that, fortunately, is pretty easy to use in the internet. You just talk a lot about your chosen subject. For example, weekly on talkmarketingnow.com at 7 p.m. Eastern when I talk about passion, persuasion, and profit, for example. So you want to prove your expertise in public, and that makes your products more valuable in general. Because if someone goes and tries to look you up as the vendor of that product, they're going to see nothing but indicators of your expertise. Now, also, one of the ways when you have that expertise where people will look at you that way already, you can make ever increasingly more valuable products through allowing people to get closer and closer to you the more money they spend, by which I mean the cheapest thing you give away would be a small amount of info in a very non-interactive format. So a short report in PDF format, for example. The slightly more expensive thing would be a video where they get to look at you and listen to you. The slightly more expensive thing after that would be something like a webinar where there's interaction and it's in real time, but not quite one-on-one. And then finally you get into like one-on-one and coaching territory, and that's like the most expensive thing that you offer. But you want to offer that concurrent with the prices that you charge. The closer and more intimate, not, you know, nasty kind of intimate, but just as in closer and with fewer people around them, the more you move towards that relationship, the more and more your value goes up, and concurrently you should raise your price according to that. Now, one way to really get your head around the idea of how the product has a way of escalating value based on the delivery mechanism, and then also you as the creator and seller of that product can increase the value based on how close you're willing to get with the customer. I think a useful metaphor to use, and again, this ties into the previous hour where I was talking about storytelling. One of the things that helps you sell stuff is being able to find metaphors and ways to explain complicated ideas in terms people already understand. So this ties into that. This is some storytelling. Here's one way to think of what I was just talking about. Think of music. People understand that nowadays, if you want to buy a single song from an artist you like, you can go on iTunes and that's 99 cents. One song. You hear it on the radio, you like it, you want to buy it, you can listen to it as much as you want forever for 99 cents. If you want the whole album that that song is a part of, then you step into a world where that's $10 to $20, depending on, you know, if you want it digital or if you want the CD, you want, you know, a hard copy, a physical format for that information to live on. Moving up from that, if you don't just want to listen to it, you want to see it happen. They have, you know, things like concert DVDs or like a box set that's a bunch of their music all together, and then you're in the $20 to $50 range. So at this point, from just the song to the point that we're talking about with a box set, it's just more of the same thing, but added on. That increases the value. But then when you talk about a concert DVD, that's a shift of context. So even though they can literally perform each song from the current album one time as part of that concert, the video of the concert is perceived as being more valuable than even a studio-produced album that's a pristine, perfect recording. Just because of the live element, it's perceived as being more valuable. So then take it a step further. A live concert ticket to go and watch your favorite band play live might be $50 to $100 just for general admission, like everyone else pays depending on how big the act is. Why? It's not going to sound as good as it does on the album, but it's just the act of being there. Not just being there with the artist, but being there with other fans of that artist. And that's an important factor, too, when it comes to creating products that are valuable to our customers. Interaction is a big part of it. That's why I think chat rooms like this are so beneficial. That's why webinars are so beneficial. That's why having a blog where people can comment is so beneficial, because you are the converter. Your prospect is the convert. You want to persuade them to come around to your way of thinking. But you've done this before. There are people who are already converted to your way of thinking. If you can put those on display publicly, it will help you leverage against the convert, the person that you do want to persuade. So that's why this is so helpful to have. Back to the music metaphor, the concert ticket, you're talking about $50 to $100, and the what you're buying with that is you know, access, visible access to that particular artist that you enjoy. Now, say you want front row seats at that particular concert. Now you're getting into you know, $250 range, right, for front row seats for your average sort of concert. If you're like a super awesome superstar, it can get insane, like front row tickets for, you know, Bruce Springsteen, or I don't know who else is super huge, Madonna, or like, you know, Barbara Streisand or something. Front row seats are going to be insanely expensive for those kind of events, mostly because of opportunists scalping the tickets. But regardless, those are the premium seats. A backstage pass, which doesn't guarantee you access to the stars, but it brings you into that inner circle, that inside, you know, like that layer of intimacy we talked about. They can take one step closer to not just being the regular guy, but being on the inside circle. That might be $500 for a backstage pass, right? And then all of a sudden, when you jump to the next layer of closeness, which would be like a private concert for your birthday party, then you get into like the tens of thousands of dollar range, depending on that particular star. Although you would be surprised at how cheap it is to get a really famous person to play a private event. Sometimes it can be like as much as it costs to get me to write your sales letter, which amuses me to no end when I hear that. But yeah, you know, you make a jump from the backstage pass to an actual private concert, and the value of that goes through the roof, pretty much instantly. You know, like it provides an extreme amount of value when you do that. Give me 1 second. My power cable fell out. Now it's back in. So the format of the product getting more and more of a real-time presentation of your expertise, that increases the value. And then the perception that people are getting closer and closer to actually interacting with you increases the value. So as an information product producer, when you roll both of those together into the same product, that's where your maximum value is. And what you want to do is focus on producing products that way, because believe it or not, it's actually easier to create the highest value kind of products and then downgrade them because you can outsource it. So let me talk about what I mean. The way I phrase this is it's the reverse ladder method of content creation. And that's sort of what I was talking about with my specific example. The normal ladder that you see a lot of content creation sort of gurus recommend that beginners start with is first you want to create the reports. Then you have a bunch of free reports. You can bundle them together and create an ebook that you sell. And then you record yourself speaking that, and then you have an audio or video product, right? Then you aggregate those together, maybe make a membership site or a deluxe information product. And then from there, you upsell to your live teaching and coaching, et cetera, et cetera. And you sort of climb the ladder from the smallest and most simplest up to the most complicated. Now, that's good because as you climb that ladder, you would learn how to more effectively sell your own information. So in one way, that's a good recommendation. But the problem with it is it doesn't match the difficulty and complication levels of creating content. What I mean is, if you write a bunch of reports, it's fairly expensive to get someone to put those together and make a book out of it for you. If you want to take that ebook and give it to someone and say, hey, turn this into an audio course or a video course for me, that costs a significant amount of money because it takes some degree of expertise to do that. As you keep trading up that, you have to keep learning to do awesomer and awesomer stuff, or else you have to have the money to keep paying someone who is awesome to do that for you. So now let's talk about the reverse ladder, which is the example I was giving with my own product before, where you start by creating the highest value piece of content first. Obviously, prerequisite to this is actually knowing your topic well enough to do this convincingly. Hopefully, if anyone here is selling some kind of expertise to people, or they have a goal of becoming some sort of visible expert or guru in their own niche, you do have that prerequisite. You can talk, hopefully at length about your topic of interest. So the trick to do would be you want to focus on creating the highest value membership site quality content first. So that would be preferably if you could get in front of a live audience to teach your topic and have someone record that happening, that's the highest value. The next highest value, if you can't do that, is to do something like a webinar where there is a live audience, and if it's being recorded, there is interaction as part of it. Because like I said, being able to deliver this stuff extemporaneously proves your expertise, as well as being able to answer questions on the fly. And when you can demonstrate that, it is immensely valuable to any sales message you would give subsequently to people who have seen you present, because they know you already can walk the talk. Because if you can answer questions on the fly and speak extemporaneously, obviously you really do know the subject in and out, and therefore are qualified to teach it. So, like I was saying, you want to do it live in front of an audience, or do a webinar or chat. Once you have that recording done, then it's an easy matter to deliver that to people as a video, and then downgrade that to an audio only if the content supports it, which you should generally make it so that you get a lot out of it if you're listening and not watching. So then you can downgrade it that way. Then you can get that recording transcribed, and then you have a text product. And then you can take that text product, break it into chapters, and then make a bunch of different reports. Now, unlike the normal ladder, when you create it this way, these various tasks that it takes to take the high value thing and break it out into the lower value things cost way, way less than doing it the other way around. Having someone transcribe a video of you talking is a lot cheaper than giving someone a manuscript and saying, hey, make a video presentation out of this, right? So what this model does is it allows you to focus on creating the highest value content, and then the rest of the stuff can be outsourced because it's really just busy work. It's just translating the content that already exists into other formats, which, like I was saying, I recorded the webinar using the built-in webinar recording software. I needed a free piece of software to turn it into an MP4. I used Camtasia, which I already owned, to turn it into, to tweak the audio, resave the MP4, and save it as an MP3. So now I have video and audio. I already had made the mind map using free software to teach the webinar with. So that's another piece of content. I paid someone $30 to transcribe the hour-and-a-half audio into ebook format. So at the end, I'm going to have that as a PDF. You can speak roughly about 125 words a minute, 625 words or so fit on a page. So we're talking about anywhere from a 15 to 20-page document based on how fast I talk for that hour-and-a-half. That is a substantial amount of value when you package all of that together into a single information product. And it took me 15 minutes to prepare, just making the mind map. And listen, the way I did the mind map, this was my friend Brad Spencer's idea. He wanted to talk to me about something I had talked about before, which was micro celebrity, the concept of being slightly famous to a small group of people and cultivating them into a loyal following who buys a bunch of your stuff. So this was a conversation we were having in a mastermind, and he wanted to do a direct conversation. So I was like, let's record it. We've been talking about doing a product together. Let's just record it. So he sent me his questions and a mind map. All I did was took his questions, made like 3 or 4 points on each one in the mind map, extrapolated it, and then when we recorded the webinar, I just went through the mind map. And literally, like I said, 125 words a minute is what you can speak. I broke it down so I had one little branch of the mind map per 5 minutes, because I figured I could ramble for 5 minutes about each little point. And then if I hit each point along the way, in fact, I even ran out of time. We had to speed up towards the end, but we did have like audio difficulties. That's another thing. When you create these high value contexts for your content to where you're recording it live, people are a lot more forgiving of flaws and technical issues than they would be if you're trying to sell them a premium, polished, and produced product. So, for example, this live webinar, the fact that we had like audio problems halfway through, I had to switch from the microphone to calling in by phone. There's probably, I think at one point Brad didn't turn off his mic so you can hear him like typing and coughing. Doesn't matter. I'm going to make that part of the story of the copy to say like, look, this is our first one ever, but like the value is there. Get it at this price while you can, because it's going to go off the market eventually and it'll become, super polished and really expensive. Get it while it's in its raw format. Condition people to continue to attend live ones later on. So if they miss one, then they're going to be more inclined to buy the product when I release it. Let me see. It looks like people are chattering down there. Let's see. GoToWebinar sucks sometimes. Yes, that is a fact, because even though I could keep a really continuous connection to it, the audio was of low quality, except it's weird because on the recording, I keep talking about how my audio quality is terrible, except no one can hear it because I'm the one making the recording, so my audio sounds perfect until I switch to the phone, in which case it starts sounding worse in the recording because, again, I was the one recording it. Did I write copy for a drug dealer? I don't understand that question. Rephrase it better. So let me check the mind map here and see where we're at. Okay, so we talked about the reverse ladder. Here is another reason why doing products this way is very valuable to you. Like I was saying, if your goal is to rise to prominence in your niche, you want to do things like speak at events and sell from the stage, or you just want to be the visible expert so that when people think of your topic, they think of you. You want to be synonymous with it. This is one way to do that, because the perception is that you're always delivering content to an eager audience when you record it this way, as opposed to I'm just recording myself on my webcam in my bedroom and maybe no one ever watches this. If you can record it in a context where it's obvious people are attending and participating, instant attention gets paid. It's like the 3-card Monte trick, right? Like half the people watching someone do the 3-card Monte trick on the street are his friends who are paying attention on purpose to lure other people into paying attention. It's the same sort of setup. If you can make it so that when you're talking in front of a group, that instantly adds more valuable, a more valuable context to what it is you're presenting. So that's one reason to pursue this, if that's what you want to do in your market. Another reason is it gives you practice speaking extemporaneously about your subject, which again portrays expertise. Practicing talking in detail about your subject makes it easier to create content. It makes it easier to sell your stuff because you know it in and out. It makes it easier to do things like when Scott Murdaugh has something to do and you need to fill in for an hour on Talk Marketing Now Live, you can do it because you know enough about your subject to just start talking off the cuff. And you can only do that through practicing, because just knowing it in your head is not enough. You have to be able to spit it out. And I've found personally, I don't think I'm the best speaker in the world, but I've gotten a lot of practice at it. I went from last August stammering on stage just to introduce myself in like a hot seat thing, like I wasn't even delivering content, to speaking on stage at an event where people paid like $5K to be at the event, and I shared the stage with like Guy Kawasaki. And that's just because I did nothing but practice talking about my stuff in front of people. So it helps with that, to create your content this way, because you're not behind the keyboard, you're delivering it. You see what works. Again, answering questions on the fly demonstrates a huge, huge amount of expertise. More so than just doing, Q&A on a blog or anything. If you can make it so that you create an environment where you have a record of people throwing questions at you randomly and you answering them like deftly and succinctly and all of that. Super, super high value. Record that anytime you can. Create those circumstances. Go speak at your local chamber if you're into the offline thing. Pay someone to come and record you. Super valuable. Another way this is highly beneficial is, like I was saying, as you practice, you develop routines. You know what stories work well, which things people respond to well. So, like I was talking about in the previous hour during Scott's show, you learn over time which stories people respond to. They become part of your repertoire. You build up a routine so that anytime someone asks, what's your opinion on this? Like, you have a prepared answer and you can like knock them on their ass because you don't have to sit there and think about it because you practiced it. You know a really good and awesome response that people are going to respond to. And you learn that through essentially performing this stuff. And then finally, the way that this is beneficial to you as a marketer is because when you present things live, people are going to give you new stuff that you can use and you get to collect new stories. For example, while I was talking in the last hour, Caliban actually sent me the link to the true story that Boilermaker story I told is based on. And it's apparently a train in the original story and not a steamship. I didn't know that. But now I have a true story to tell people to express that particular idea that experts should cost more than regular lay people, regardless of the amount of labor. But that's one of the benefits. He gave me a better story than I had before, and I wouldn't have had that because I didn't get that research myself. I only had that because I told the story in public and he had a chance to respond. And that makes your material better and better and better. The same way it works for, stand-up comedians. Marketing can be largely the same way if you want to create this kind of content. So the next step of that is, like I was saying, when you use the reverse ladder, you can reverse the whole process. So instead of having to get good at writing and then having to get good at video and then having to get good at, making slide presentations to put in your video, you just reverse the whole thing, throw your topic together in a mind map, record yourself talking about it at length. But if you do it, like I said, it's not hard to gather a big audience just reaching out to people you know, especially if it's something free and it's not something that people won't like. If you give some valuable content and it's free, people will show up, and it just takes a few people to give you that social proof. So your job should be, if you want to create these high value products fast, put your content out there in front of people as fast as possible in the format of performance. So either perform it live in front of people, have like a live, face-to-face seminar thing, rent out a hotel conference room or something, maybe a free room at the library. My local library has free rooms if you want to have meetings for stuff. Something. Get people to show up, film yourself doing it in front of them live, or do a webinar if it's a more savvy web audience where that is impressive to them. Either way, your job is to create content through performance. Now, everything else past that point can be outsourced. If you're talking about capturing it, if it's webinar based, like I said, you can do it with software, capture it via the software itself, or just film your screen and microphone with Camtasia. That's software. Or if you're performing it live, just hire a videographer to record it. Hire your friend to use your $150 webcam, put it on a tripod, tell them to make sure it's always aimed at you. Done. Not that hard to do. Easy to put together. Processing it, making it into different formats. Like I said, Camtasia can bust it out into video and audio. That's what I used. I couldn't format the WMV from GoToWebinar, so I got Handbrake, which is free for both Mac and PC. Just process the audio down into an MP4, which for whatever reason Camtasia can handle better than the WMV. I don't know, I'm not an expert, but it worked. So software alone can output it to audio and video, so you don't even have to, pay some expert a ton to do that once you have the video recording itself. Reformatting it, namely taking it out of that video and audio format and turning it into text. I found somebody to outsource the transcription to. That's something you can do. You can also outsource slide creation. You know, you can find graphic designers on places like 99 Designs, hold a contest, pick a winner, go to that guy directly and say, hey, I got a bunch of slides I need. Do you do illustrations? Can I get a rate? I need, 50 of them for the slideshow. You get original content. People can't go and get the same images as you out of, royalty-free websites or whatever, and you can do it really cheaply, relatively speaking. And I want to point out, since the goal is immediately creating an expensive product, think of how much you can invest in actually paying for this stuff. I mean, my particular example with this webinar, I'm looking to charge $47 for this whole package. And I pay less than that to get it transcribed into a product. So if I sell one, I'm profitable. If I want to post it as a WSO, I got to sell two to be profitable. I'm going to sell more than two. Like that's a given. I'm going to sell more than two. More people than that showed up, and I know they'll want to buy the recording. So when you know you're creating more expensive products, you can put more into creating it in a way that you wouldn't if you were starting from zero sum proposition trying to make a $5 ebook. You don't want to spend $30 to create a transcription to sell a $5 ebook, because then you got to sell 6 copies before you're even breaking even, right? So even taking that video content and having somebody chop it up into parts and, fill out the little MP3 form so that it's got all your info, and not just transcribing it, but put it in a PDF and put all the bookmarks in there, put a table of contents, make sure it's all interlinked. Super, super cheap to find people to outsource that to. And you should get somebody to do that. Find somebody that can do it all, that's got the software. Like, super simple. Like, it's busy work. You shouldn't be doing that. So get somebody else to do it. Packaging it up, namely formatting it into a product, setting up the delivery mechanism, putting it in something, whether it's, ClickBank or DigiResults or PaySpree or Nanocast or Infusion, whatever you use. Infusionsoft is another one. That's another step that can totally be outsourced once you create the high-value content, because you've got the content. Let somebody else do the busy work of setting it all up and making sure you can get paid. Same thing with payment, making sure, your little PayPal is set up or whatever so that the money comes to you. Doing the design, like I said, you can go to 99 Designs or just post, classified ads or whatever. Get somebody else to do the stuff to package it up and create a product out of, so you can keep focusing on spitting out as much valuable content as you can. When it comes down to selling it, maybe you want to take more control here. It depends on whether or not you like it or you're good at it. You want some more guiding hand than maybe even just for the product creation part when it comes to selling it, because the selling it part faces the public whether they buy or not. The product part only faces the customer, which if you're doing your marketing right, they only are going to buy it if they like you to begin with, which means they'll be more forgiving even if the product has flaws. Whereas your marketing faces even your enemies and, competitors and things like that. So your marketing, you should definitely have your hand involved in your marketing, even if you're outsourcing it. You want to have control over your message and the perception of yourself that you present. That being said, you can do a launch, which I've done a bunch of. You get a bunch of JV partners to promote your stuff. You can just do an open release, basically like, hey, I finished this product, it's for sale. Let people know it's for sale, but you intend to keep it for sale. It's not a launch thing where there's only a limited window to get it. You can do private release, which is sort of a hybrid where you get the JV relationships you would normally have in a launch, and there's an open and close, but instead of it being the same open and close for all JVs, you go to one JV at a time and you do a limited time offer, open and close, just for them and their customers. So at that particular time and place, they are the only person promoting that particular product. You can have a lot of success with that. And again, you can sell that product through that relationship for a lot more than you would if it was on the open market, especially if you do it through, say, a webinar to promote that particular product for sale, because it does that thing we talked about where not only would that person's list member be moving closer to them which has immense value, but they would be introducing you as a valuable person, so that's even more valuable, and then you're going to be promoting something exclusively to them. So that's 3 layers of value that you would not get if you were just sending people to a cold sales letter. So that's an option. Finally, the last thing you can outsource is just straight promoting it. Obviously, we all know about affiliates through passive networks like ClickBank and stuff. You don't even have to know who your affiliates are. They'll just sign up on their own if you get a popular enough product. Obviously, I don't think you should leave it up to that. I think you should actively recruit them, whether you get a JV broker or not. You should be trying to get people to sell your stuff. So recruit affiliates during the performance of your content. If you have everything set up and automated, which you should after the first couple of products, at least get it hammered out, so that every time you're recording one of these live products, you can just say, hey, if you're an affiliate or you have your own list and you think your customers would find this valuable, I give you X amount percentage. You can go sign up at this URL, right? So you can do it live in the product itself, and then it's self-perpetuating. Obviously, when you create the print versions of the product, you can include that same information in there. And then another thing that I've had success with working with particular clients is you make it so that every customer is automatically made into an affiliate in your system. This is a lot easier to manage when you do your own affiliate setup through something like Infusionsoft or One Shopping Cart, something like that, where you have control of the affiliate channel. So yeah, you can set all your customers up as affiliates and then give them like tell a friend script kind of stuff, or like share this on Facebook, and then reward them by giving them that with their affiliate link attached. So then they share it and they're earning commissions, and they don't even maybe consider themselves a marketer. It's just a nice little bonus that they weren't expecting, depending on what niche you're in. But I know a lot of people that do that and have good success with it. So the final thing I wanted to add was, and this, again, this part of it is advice in action. Namely, this is what I'm trying to do for myself. So I'm putting it out there as useful information that you may want to try if you find yourself in the same position. This part is not like expert advice that I've done hundreds of times. One of the things that I struggled with personally when I shifted from being a service provider as a copywriter to being a person who creates content for other people, one of the big roadblocks I had was as a writer, I tend to fiddle with things a lot, and it's beneficial to me and my clients to fiddle with things literally until the last possible minute if I'm trying to make them better. If you're trying to create content to build a business around, that's detrimental. You want to finish it and get it out there, get feedback, polish it if it's necessary. But if everybody loves it as is, leave it alone. Pardon me. That goes against every bone in my body just because of the way I've written copy over the last few years. So I've had to do some major mindset changes in order to arrive at being able to create content in this way that I've described to you here. Even though I've seen other people do it, and I know that it's the case, I'm forcing myself to do it this way. And I realize with all of the positive feedback that I got from my last webinar, I really don't need to perfect the presentation. The information is what's valuable. The presentation is secondary, and if I choose to present it in a format that's forgiving of flaws in the presentation, like a webinar or live performance, then the value remains intact, and people aren't expecting a super polished product because they know it's not totally within the ability to be controlled in that environment, if that makes sense. So what I've been trying to do, like doing this show as part of it, I'm trying to make it so that the best value content I have is coming out of me in real time into the highest value format that I can produce, and then downgrade it and package it so that I have something to sell to the base of audience that I'm building through providing the best value I can in the highest value format that I can. So hopefully it's self-perpetuating, and then not only do I keep building my name through the sort of stuff I'm doing here, but instead of talking to you guys, and if you find a lot of value and you want to buy something from me, I don't have only free reports or, $5 WSOs, which are fine, totally fine. I would just much rather have something substantial where I could say, here's 5 hours of video content about writing copy, and it's everything I know, all the good stuff. Infinitely better for me for you to be able to buy that for hundreds of dollars, as opposed to only having little reports here and there. And like I said, it's a lot easier to take a super expensive complete product and break it into tiny pieces if I want free reports, as opposed to writing a bunch of little free reports and then trying to glue them together into a bigger, more valuable product. At least in my mind, that's a lot easier to break it down the opposite way than try and put it together. It's easier to chop it into pieces than to assemble it as a whole. So with that in mind, I'm trying to do a production schedule where I have a routine. The routine's going to create consistency. I'm going to try and record something weekly as a webinar that's free for people to attend, but with the purpose of creating a commercial product out of it. And then I'm going to pay somebody to do nearly everything else, but the actual act of performing the content and the product. With that, I see I have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to do my usual shtick to remind people of the recording policy. It is Thursday, February 3rd, 2011. If you're listening to this live, you have my permission to record this and share it with anyone you want, as long as it's free and you don't require them to do anything but type in a URL to look at it. Don't charge anybody for it. Give it away for free if you want. If you recorded this hour, let me know, because I would like a copy. I didn't record it myself. Also, please tell people that they can tune in every Thursday at 7 p.m. to talkmarketingnow.com to listen to me live for future episodes of Passion, Persuasion, and Profit. And if you want to get in touch with me directly, there's my website with my name, Colin, theriot.com, pronounced Theriot, rhyme with stereo. You can get on my list there. You will also see the post for when my webinar is next week. Also, you can get the mind maps for this week's show when I post them up on the blog. It'll email out automatically. So if you get on the list there, you'll get basically all my stuff, because that's the central repository of all things Colin, if you like that sort of thing. So I'll open it up to questions now, and hopefully you enjoyed the show, and let me know how I can help you for the next 10 minutes. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and if there are no questions, I'll see you next week. Otherwise, I will be on and off throughout the evening. So if you have any questions, I'll jump on them now, and I'll get off the mic. That's it. Talk to you guys in a second.
Colin, I just wanted to say thanks a lot, man. Thanks for taking that extra hour, and thanks for sharing it. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but you can take that written product that you're getting transcribed. You could actually throw it up on CreateSpace, toss it on Amazon, and get a whole other income stream coming in that way too. So, fantastic idea. Glad to see you're stepping into the arena full force, and I look forward to seeing what you have to offer.
Thank you, Will. That is an awesome compliment and an awesome idea. I do, before the end of the year, want to have a for real book for sale. I would settle for doing something on CreateSpace, but I would love to get a real publisher behind it. I think I need to talk to Ron Douglas about that. So I got my eye on him and a couple of other people, because I would love to be, like Seth Godin or Malcolm Gladwell, just be writing big fancy books about big fancy thoughts for a living. I could do that. I could live with that. Scott Sheen asks, what is your opinion of low price WSOs used for list building? It depends, and this is something I've been talking a lot with some of my mastermind friends about, because a lot of them are heavy WSO sellers. I'm not only not a WSO seller, I'm not even a WSO buyer. So, I mean, I buy a few here and there, but I don't really shop it. If there's something I want, I'll go and look there and see if there's been an offer before, or if someone recommends something to me, I'll go check it out. But I don't frequently buy things or shop for them on my own. And one of the things we were talking about is everyone seems to think that the people there will only buy low price stuff. But I've talked to several people that say that is not the case. It's just not the popular perception. And it's sort of a self fulfilling prophecy in that way that people feel like only low price things can sell there. Yes, you can build a list with low price offers, and I think there is value in that if you have the resources to keep offering low value products that will match their price expectations. But I would say as soon as you possibly could, in fact, immediately with an upsell, you want to ratchet up the people who would buy $5 things into at least the $25 category. And once you ratchet them up to that category, unless they go shopping on their own, only offer them things at the price point close to or above what it is that you've previously had them pay. That's not to say to rip them off and not offer them the things that you sell for cheap, but if you have a $5 report, don't offer it to them for $5. Package it up with five other reports and offer it to them for $20 so they save $5 off if they would have bought all five separately. Um, and that just will help you increase your income. The same way they tell offliners to, fire 25% of your lowest paying customers and keep trying to get more and more expensive ones, raise your prices 25% on your best paying customers. Um, so you can keep making more and more money doing the same amount of work, which allows you to take that money and then pay other people to do even more work instead of doing it backwards where you're selling more and more for less and less and have to keep doing more and more work. So hopefully that answered your question, Scott. And let me see if anyone else has any. I just want to say I see a lot of comments from earlier in the show from Stephen Wagenheim. Uh, I don't know that I've ever maybe bought something from you, but I've followed you a lot on the Warrior Forum, which is not hard to do because maybe not so much now, but for a large time period, you were very, very prolific and frequently participated in threads that I was also involved in. So I followed you for a while. You are a great example of the kind of thing I actually talked about on the webinar I recorded, namely micro celebrity, and that you are moderately famous to a moderately sized audience, and I'm almost positive that that is very, very beneficial to your business, above and beyond where it would be if you sold products without people knowing they were products by Stephen Wagenheim, the guy who posts on Warrior Forum all the time. So I just wanted to say I appreciate you chiming in. I'm glad you like the show because I like the stuff you do too. So thanks for tuning in there, Stephen. Got just 2 minutes left. I wanted to say thank you to Istvan, who I am also friendly with on the Warrior Forum. He's posted in threads of mine. We've had conversations via PM before. Thanks for showing up, Istvan. I'm glad you liked it. And also to Ron Herman. Thank you for coming by. I'm glad you liked the show too. Ron's a cool dude. I met him in Las Vegas at Practical Profits 1 last summer. In fact, that is the very conference where I was stammering on stage. And look at me now. So obviously, practice is what will get you to Carnegie Hall. So I'm glad to see Ron also. And I got 2 minutes left. If anybody's got any more questions, everybody's saying thank you. If I don't call you out specifically, please don't take it personally. But thank you all for the nice compliments, and it was my pleasure. If anybody's got any last questions in this last minute, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go offline and eat some dinner, and then I'll be back later tonight to see everyone coming up after me, including Brian McLeod and John Schwartz and Mike Caraway and anyone else who is on after them, which will probably be after my bedtime since I stayed up so late to get the iPhone. But thanks again, you guys, and we'll see you next week. Get on my list if you want to hear about the webinar next week, and I'll be posting that hopefully tomorrow.
It looks like Mike might still be out on the road. Is he here? Mike Caraway was driving 9 hours to get to Practical Profits today. So I don't know whether he's gonna show up for tonight's show. He said he was going to, but he had a 9-hour drive to Practical Profits. So let's see if Mr. Caraway shows up. I'd like to see him. Yeah, I know. And that's why I don't know where he is. But I got a couple buddies who are at Practical Profits. I'll see if he's there. 1 second. I'm gonna Skype some people.